So thanks so much for coming by.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, Tribe, just to let you know, Katy had reached out in response to one of my Instagram posts that I had put up about how teachers are starting to use the maps in classrooms. And so I said, if any other teachers out there are interested in using the maps with their students, then please get in touch. And so Katy went ahead and did that. And I asked her if she could come by today because I figured that any conversation that she and I have would be of service to many others of you, especially those who are teachers. And so, yeah, this is the first time Katy and I are chatting.
Yeah.
I actually don't know much in the way of detail.
Nope.
Nope, but that's okay. And so, yes, my understanding is that you have 7th grade students. Is that correct?
I teach 7th grade history. So
awesome.
Yeah. So when I saw your Instagram post, I just thought it was a really cool thing that, we could maybe try in the classroom. And so I tried to come up with a couple ideas. I don't know how good they are, but
perfect.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your students first, or kind of the things that you do with them, the types of activities in the classroom.
Sure. Well, I teach 7th grade history. It's U.S. history, like the first 1600 through the Civil War, which I know sounds awful and boring to so many people, but I try to make it as interesting as possible. And I work in a district where I've been really, really lucky that, we're allowed to try a lot of new things. And I mean, just compared to, where a lot of other people teach and they have to do a lot. We have a lot of freedom and are given a lot of chances with professional development. And so over the past couple of years, we've been working, history, it's one of those things that, you can Google everything. So there's no need to, know, to memorize facts, dates, people's events, that kind of thing. So we've really, this is my 8th or 9th year teaching. So how far we've come in that time has been pretty awesome from where my first year, what we were teaching to now in terms of, we really just try to support our English teachers. So we work on reading and writing and history is our vehicle for, becoming better communicators through reading and writing and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
We work on just a lot of different types of literacy. Like I said, I'm in a district that, it's more affluent. And so we do have resources that, other people may not. And for example, during our American Revolution unit, all of my students, we do lit circles. And so my students read historical fiction books. And so I assign them one of 5 American Revolution historical fiction books based on kind of their reading level, ability, work ethic, that kind of thing. Sure. And just different things like that, kind of make it a lot more fun than just let's read our textbook and be bored to death. So they might still be, so I can't speak for them, but at least try.
Yes. No, I think it's amazing that you are trying and that you're genuinely trying to make this a more interesting experience and have them connect to that history. Because I think for me, especially when I was taking history, the thing that really got me excited about history was when I started to understand more of the personal stories,
right,
and understands how those were actually people with all the different types of challenges that we have and complexities of relationship and so forth. And it kind of reminds me of in the Olympics when they started doing those individual profiles of the athletes. Right?
Yeah, so much better
yeah. So when you have a personal connection or can see yourself in that, then it's I actually care about you. But if it's just sort of a name of I don't know anything, then so I think it sounds like you're looking for ways to make that history kind of come alive and be something relevant that they would connect to.
Yeah, we try anyway. So like I said, that's the goal. But
sure.
Yeah.
So what would you say are some things that are perhaps a little bit challenging with your students, or things that they might struggle with, or may not seem as motivated to do in the classroom?
Any kind of homework for sure. And then I think in middle school, as a middle school, we just our push for literacy and our push for trying to instill that love of reading in kids, especially, and it doesn't have to be a book, like I said, I work in a great building in a great district. And so a lot of really, really great people, from our librarians to, the classroom teachers to the administrators, and all around it's a big push, for to try to, promote literacy, promote reading, just, trying to convince kids like, hey, everything will be easier if you read more. It's not like you have to sit down and read a book, but school's going to be a lot easier for you, like the better reader you are. So, and life in general, and they don't get that now, obviously. But, so I think it's just, for some of them, they read nonstop, and others, you can't convince them. You could offer them anything in the world, and nope, not happening. So I think it's one of those, that was one of my first thoughts about when I was thinking about, using this in school. The Map Your Progress in school would be, we have like each teacher has right before lunch each day, like an advisory kind of, and it's like a study hall, but you're supposed to be more of a group or, whatever. And one of our days on Wednesdays during the week, we call it Literacy Cafe, and the kids silent read, and we do different activities and stuff. And I was thinking how it would be cool if you had like a challenge between all the rooms, like each time somebody finished a book or, whatever, they filled in one of those and kind of, created their piece of artwork and used it as like a challenge against other advisories in the school. So that was one of my ideas that I thought could be really cool.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great idea. I think it's fun to kind of use competition in a healthy way.
Right.
Provides a little bit of excitement. And, my sister, who's a high school biology teacher, she has them she has 4 periods of students. And so, everything is up on the wall. So, the students can kind of see each other. And it's funny how some of the periods especially are competitive with other particular periods. And so, I absolutely think it's worth experimenting with and trying. And depending on where you're going to be posting them, certainly you could start with the 10 Swirl Heart. That's the download. But if it's something that's, the kids are responding to, or you have more wall space, then you can go for some of the larger sizes, like on the fancy prints. And then it becomes, just more like truly looks like artwork. And when everybody can see it and it's something that's visually prominent, that tends to keep them, kind of motivated and interested in what's going on. And then the trick is too, I think, especially when mapping with groups, is to kind of get a sense for what the pacing might be. In other words, the meaning of the swirls, depending on how easy or difficult or the possible frequency of them being able to earn that swirl, that dictates like how quickly it's going to be filled up. And so sometimes mappers can start with, an idea about, okay, the swirl is going to mean this. And then they get going and it's like, oh, it's actually taking a lot of time. It's feeling a little bit discouraging that I'm looking, I've got one swirl, we got all of these other swirls. And so it's perfectly fine and appropriate. And I encourage it that you just start with your best guess in terms of what the swirls could mean. And it could mean, each swirl could mean one thing. It could mean multiple things. It could be colored in by, say, different shades. For example, let's say there's 3 different ways for the classroom to earn swirls on that. And, blue means one thing, purple means another thing, green means something. Yeah. So it's kind of cool too, because you can see when there's categories like that, kind of what they do more of,
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And it also gives them a little bit of variety for, students who may be stronger in one skill type. And then, students who could do better in another skill type. It allows them to feel like they're participating and, they're contributing to their team. So I think that's something to look to. And then once you get started and you're trying this out and seeing how it's going, you can certainly adapt if you feel like you need to. You just change the meaning of the swirls a little bit and it's totally fine. I mean, what you're looking for essentially is how you know it's working and that it's calibrated appropriately, is that there's this sense that the kids are enjoying it, they're excited about it, they're talking about it. They'll say like, oh, you'd be so proud of me, like I did this. And then, there's a general sense of like positivity and well-being. That it's not quite working as intended if it's just something that's like, or they they feel like it's too hard, that they feel like they can't do it, or that it takes too long, or it's not something that's meaningful to them. And, one thing that my sister's done, which may or may not be fun for you guys, is to have some sort of like prize or privilege that they earn when they get the map in full color.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So like for her, she does that individually with each classroom, because some of them, they want extra credit. Some of them, they wanted time to, like, they all went and played a game together. So it can be different things. And, you know, whatever would be meaningful to your students, or, you know, work within the parameters you've got. But yeah, you can definitely be creative about it.
Very cool. And you probably mentioned this before, but I didn't see it exactly anywhere. So how, like, did your sister do it, or does she do it just as like the whole class is one group, or do students ever do it individually at all? Or
Sure, it's a great question. Yeah, so far what she's been doing is using them with each of the classrooms and as a group. I think they can be really wonderful for individual things too. And I think that the 10 Swirl Heart is, again, a great starting place, particularly for the individual, because you could have, I mean, you could do a variety of things. It could be something as simple as, you know, for every number of pages you read, you get to color in a swirl, or for every amount of time, perhaps, that you spend 10 minutes reading, because, you know, for some kids they can read faster and other kids not, you know, so maybe the amount of time would be an even better thing to track, so that if they are seeing each other, someone who's a slow reader doesn't feel badly about it, you know? So that could be an option. It also could be something too, where maybe you create like a 10 swirl heart key for the week or the month or something, where each swirl represents some specific activity, you know, like you could pick 10 things, and some of them could just be really fun and silly, kind of mixed in with the more academic type things, but it's almost like bingo kind of, you know, a little bit. Yeah. So they get to color in, and, you know, they can come up with ideas, and that might be fun for them. You know, it can be something very specific that they're working toward, like you take a project, or, you know, maybe even a book, like the book has 200 pages. And so for every 20 pages they read, then they get to color it in. All different kinds of things you can do depending on what the goal is, and then also knowing your students and, you know, what they might respond to, or, you know.
Very cool.
It's all, I encourage you to like take it all on as an experiment and present it to the kids as an experiment. And we're going to be curious about this, and we're going to have fun with it, and we're going to find out what works. And you can just try different things.
No, that sounds great. The other idea I had with it, this is what kind of follow up to my question was, have you ever heard of like a genius hour, or like personal learning time, or it comes from like, there's been a bunch written about it in education in the past couple of years, because it comes from like Google's, I think it's called their 20% time, like they give their employees, which is like 20% time to do whatever you want, you know.
Yes, that I have heard
kind of whatever you want. So that's where the idea comes in education. It gets the name like Genius Hour, personal learning time, whatever. And so it's giving students time to learn basically whatever they want. So I've done a couple different, since I still have to teach history, I've done a couple different variations on that over the years. Like maybe at the end of a quarter or something, giving them like, okay, between this time period and this time period, like you can choose anything you want. And then I kind of give them the step-by-step through a project. Like, you know, today we're brainstorming, you got to do this, this, and this. And it's, you know, time to learn on your own, got to do this, this, and this. And then at the end, they create something kind of based on what they learn. So I was thinking this could also be good for that, you know, like if you meet your goal for day one, you know, you get to circle, you know, or color it in, or, you know, whatever. So that's just, I thought I had today prepared, like thinking about this when I was driving. So, that was another one that I thought it could lend itself really well to it. So.
Yeah, for sure. I love those ideas. It's like, I mean, it's interesting because they can be used for things that are a little bit longer term, or, you know, that happen over weeks or months. And then they can also be used for really short term stuff. Like I use the 10 Swirl Heart as my to-do list. So I actually have like 20 10 Swirl Hearts right now. But that's more enjoyable to me than, you know, just like writing down or having it on all these little Post-it notes or whatever. That sense of being able to color it is kind of fun.
So do you actually write your, whatever you have to do down on it, or do you write it on a different piece of paper and then?
Yeah, no, like this one, for example, this is my current one right now. So
Very cool.
I just have it written in the like this is what I mean when I say that I have like all these worlds. Because there's
awesome,
some things that there's some things that I write down where it's like, oh, I want to do that at some point. And then, I start coloring on the heart and I'm like, okay, but this is a higher priority. So I give myself some flexibility, and that seems to work pretty well for me. But
whatever works for you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole spirit of mapping, is to, experiment and find out what's true for you, because just because it works for me doesn't mean that it works for you, and it's fine. It's totally normal. So one other thing to consider is that, I talk about how each of the swirls represents a next right step. Okay. And I like to say that the next right step is one you can do.
Okay.
Really something that you can do. In other words, it's not something that causes overwhelm, anxiety, that is like so much that oftentimes when we feel a little bit fearful or uncertain, that we just will stop and not do anything.
No, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thinking about it this way. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like, don't even get started, because, that one swirl, that step, that action in of itself feels like too much. Like you would need to do maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 things before actually achieving that. So that's something to keep in mind too. And again, the sort of calibration or meaning of those swirls could be different things for different kids based on how they learn, how advanced they are in any particular area. So it's also something that, depending on what it is you're doing, you can teach them about that. And about how the swirl is their next right step. And I think it's a useful skill for them to have for anything. Like, I mean, it reminds me of Anne Lamott's one of my favorite authors, and she wrote this brilliant book called Bird by Bird. And it's about writing. And the example that she uses to open the book was a memory that she had of her younger brother, who was supposed to write this report on birds. He was supposed to do it over the summer and then like turn it in the first day. And of course he didn't, do anything about it until the night before it was due. And so he was becoming very stressed and overwhelmed, and, had all these birds to write about. And so his dad said, you just take it bird by bird, just one bird, just one at a time. That's all we're doing. And so I think, in the people that I work with, it's so easy when we get fearful or triggered about something to be overwhelmed and to not know where to start. And, we start wherever it is that we are, and then it's one next right step at a time. And the next right step is the one you can do. So if you find yourself stuck and not moving forward, it's probably because your next right step isn't what you think it is. It's perhaps smaller, because once you have that sense of, okay, but I accomplished that, I colored in that swirl, then it's like tiny victory, and that feels good. And then when we do one tiny victory after another, we start to build confidence. We start to build strength in the skills that we use to accomplish those things. We start to feel, better about ourselves and trust in ourselves and our ability to move forward. And, when we don't know how to do that, then it can be real easy to feel stuck or to feel like there's something wrong with me. I'm not good enough. I'm just, not able to do this. And unfortunately that, can be something that really throws us off and keeps us from moving in the direction we want to go. So yeah, for them to be able to start to understand and have ownership in their next right steps.
I love the way I wrote that down when you were talking, if it looked like I was doing something weird, but
no.
The one next right step, because I think that's a great way of thinking about it, because we do try to do that, and we use totally different words with our students. Usually we call it like something boring, like task analysis, if you've got a project. But yeah, the same idea of what you said with the bird project, like they have a project, but it's like, I don't know how to just do a project, but do I know, if I break it down into all these kind of unintended steps or whatever steps, it starts to make more sense when I just have one tiny thing to do at first instead of, I have to do this project. So I think that's a great way of explaining it to them. And I looked at your, is it your progress or Map Your Progress 101? Is that your
Progress Mapping 101.
Yeah. Which was awesome. And the way you explain that, it makes so much sense for how you use it for anything. Like thinking about losing weight, like you only have to lose 1 pound at first. You don't have to lose 20 pounds, 30 pounds. But like, what are you going to do next to put yourself in line to do that? Or if you want to, like you were talking about, like getting out of debt or, whatever. You just have to make like one right choice next. And so it makes things seem easier and, actually able to do them when you think about it that way. So I love that. Thanks for explaining it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I learned this through decades of struggle of like being, a like compulsive, like, overachiever, perfectionist type person that would just be, a mess, like so upset that I couldn't do all of these things or I didn't know how or whatever. And so, I didn't realize it initially when I started this and Map Your Progress, but it's become very clear in the last couple months, where I draw a lot of inspiration from the very first job that I had, and that was teaching kids how to swim, specifically teaching 4-year-olds how to swim.
Nice.
And our goal is to, have them float. So we need to have a child who is sitting at the edge and does not want to put their face in the water, maybe doesn't want to put their toe in the water. Like, how do you take a child from that to floating? And there's a lot of steps in between. And you might have a kid that's just excited and runs in the pool and and that's wonderful. But we need to be able to teach all the kids. As you know, your students are all different. So yeah, it just becomes breaking it down into as tiny a piece as it needs to be for them to be able to move forward in that direction that they want to go. And so, the method that I was taught in terms of swimming, it's like, okay, if you're not going to put your face in the water, then can you put your hand in the water? Can I put water on your hand? Like however far we need to back it up so that it's not threatening and that it's like, yes, I am willing to try this. Yes, that's okay with me. Then that's fine. And it's one of those things too that I encourage you, especially when it comes to the individuals and the use of a downloadable map where you can just keep printing up, copies, or maybe you have like a stack that the kids can take on their own, is that it gives them the freedom to, let's say you have a project and what kind of projects would they do? Can you give me an example?
Let's see. They just did a project. We did finish the Constitution and they had to do a project explaining how the legislative, executive, or judicial branch played a role in their own lives. So they ended up creating a video. It could have been any kind of video demonstrating how like a law, mostly laws, and then how a law by the legislative, executive, or judicial branch played a role in their lives. So whether it was something from like, I wear my seatbelt in the car and, my family got in an accident and I was safe, or just something bigger where, somebody is covered by Obamacare and they have, the family has health insurance because of it. And then now, something happened and somebody had to go, medical bills and that kind of thing. So they kind of run the gamut of all different things like that. So they created videos. That was the last one they did.
Okay. So were they shooting video? Were they getting video clips? Is it both? Are they putting
both
together in software?
It could have been anything they wanted. So I had all of that, or some use apps to create like animated videos or, that kind of thing. So they're all over the place. So
cool. So I love that there's like all this mixed media and stuff that, when I was going to school, it was so not happening. It's such a different world. But, it could be the kind of thing, again, like helping the students learn to do this for themselves, I think is another really valuable skill. And so determining their next right steps, for one kid who maybe that's a little bit of a more overwhelming project or they're not feeling super savvy as far as their like video skills.
Right.
It could be, each role could be identifying a thing that they need. Like, maybe it's like ask my mom to use her camera, or, maybe it's decide which law I want to use, or if that's too big, then look up the different laws that might be, or just like do a brainstorming list. It's like giving them different examples of what kinds of things, or maybe there could be like a place, maybe on the wall or something.
Right. Where I can model one or
you could like write down different ideas and the kids could contribute different ideas for different next right steps. So they can kind of like, helps them brainstorm and think of different things so that they can map out their project. And whether they do that in 1 heart or 10 hearts, like it doesn't matter. It's just about them coloring and learning how to move forward.
Cool. Yeah, no, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
They usually work much better that way too, when you've given them an example or modeled one or that kind of thing. So
exactly. And I think when they can feel empowered to learn to do what's right for them and how they work, that there's a lot of value in that too. And they may not know exactly how they work. So that's where we go back to, this is an experiment. We're trying things. We're curious. If it's not working, no big deal. That's great because we learned something. And so now, knowing that, what else can we do? And it just, it keeps going. And what's fun too that I've learned for myself is that I'll start to kind of, once I get into it and as I start practicing, I'll start to figure out what I call little like life hacks, or things that it's like a thing that was challenging or not very fun. But then somehow I figured out a way to make it interesting for me. And this is the example that comes to mind. It's not the sexiest example, but it's a true one. Is that cleaning my bathroom mirror, like not at all something that's like fun for me. Yeah. But it's an important part of the bathroom feeling clean. And I like when it feels like bathroom clean. Fine. So what I discovered is that when after the shower, when there's steam all over the mirror, I have this little like cloth. No, it's like a cloth that my mom gave me. That's especially for windows or something. Okay. And so I just take that and then I wipe the window down when there's steam on it. And there's something about wiping the steam off the mirror that is satisfying to me. It's like the opposite of coloring. You're like removing the steam, but it takes me probably 20 seconds. And then I feel like really gold star about it. Like, look what I just did, And then it's like something that I feel like I just made a thing, I just tweaked it so that it works for me, and it becomes something that I feel good about rather than, discouraged and like I'm failing. And so, just encouraging the kids as they go and praising them for taking risks, praising them for trying things, praising them for, what we call failures. It's like, that's great. Because that means that you're trying, you're finding answers, and there are things that we can't know until we take action. So no, it sounds great.
I'm excited to try this. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with it yet. I gotta kind of think it through a little bit more. But I'm on spring break right now, and so next Monday will be the start of fourth quarter. So I'm going to try to integrate it somehow for the fourth quarter. And definitely I'll keep you updated on that and that kind of thing. But I'm excited. Everything you're talking about is kind of where we've been headed, in our school and, in my 7th grade history team. I work with 2 other teachers, and just, everything you're saying in between, like, just allowing room for creativity, taking risks, that kind of thing. So this feels kind of like a perfect next step too. So
yay, that's awesome. That's awesome. And one thing you can tell the kids too, which I went in and saw the kids that my sister teaches and spoke to each of the classes, and just told them how much I appreciated what they were doing, because mapping in schools is a very new thing. And so I'm really curious to see how it goes and what's working and what's sticky and like, that we can creatively solve. So if that seems like that would be something that would also motivate or, help the kids feel it's good, like it matters what they're doing, there's purpose in it, because what they're doing is then something that can be shared literally all over the world. I mean, the tribe is especially a huge contingency in Australia. Love Australians. 30% of members are Australian. So just knowing that they can have an impact, and I'm not saying that just like, like, no, I legitimately mean that. So if that's something that's fun for them, they can know that they're creating an impact.
Cool. I think that always helps too, when they think their voices are going to be heard, and they actually are. So not when I just tell them that, then they're not, but but when they actually are. So they really are. They really are. So thank you so much for coming by. I'm so happy to chat with you and meet you. And, and please, come back, in a few weeks or whatever amount of time where you feel like you've got some learnings and I definitely will.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, however it goes, whether it's, really working and successful or it's not, like all of that is welcome. And you can come back and you and I can talk about it. And if, we need to brainstorm different ideas or, celebrate tiny victories and what has been working, anything that happens is worth talking about as far as I'm concerned.
Cool. That sounds great.
Awesome. All right, Katy. Well, thank you so much and enjoy your spring break.
Thank you very much. You have a good one.